Hey everybody, I'm at home in my studio here in San Francisco, and I just wanted to hop on here not to make the most incredible quality video out there, but to kind of provide some advice and tips into the audition process. Um, I was doing a chamber class at the conservatory here earlier today, and a question I get a lot when I'm teaching wherever that is, it is about how do I do well in an audition? It's a very pertinent question. It's a very reasonable question for everybody out there who is going down this path and trying to get a job. And I just wanted to offer my 10 cents on this for what it's worth, and in the hopes that it might help some of you out there. Um, Auditions are often seen as this standalone thing, that it's really this event that happens. We have to put in a special kind of preparation for it, and that it's kind of maybe isolated from daily routine, from practice, from fundamentals, from the basics that we're used to doing. Um, and I disagree with that. Now, maybe that's not the most common thing that we hear, but I do see it taught that way. I see it taught as another skill. Yes, it is slightly a different skill. We need to know the skill of auditioning, the art of taking an audition, how to present yourself in the best package as possible. But I really argue that an audition is not anything out of the ordinary. Other than the fact that you have to travel somewhere, you have to be stressed, you have to sleep in a hotel room, and you have to play. Other than the fact that it's not completely normal, it's actually more normal than you think. Why do I say this? Well, I really think an audition is based on fundamentals. It's based on how well you play on any given day. The good news is that you're not going to show up to an audition and inherently play any worse than you did yesterday. You might get a little shaky. Yeah, sure, you'll get a little nervous, especially if you're not used to doing these things. But you're not going to play any worse than you really do at the root. Let's say you're in college right now. You're not going to sound like you did in beginning band, for example. That's the good news. You're going to sound pretty okay. The maybe not so good news is that you're also not going to sound that much better. You're not magically somehow one day just going to sound 5 times better and win that job. No. You're going to sound like you. When you show up to an audition, you are going to sound like you. And what that means is that you are going to sound as prepared as you are based on where your baseline skills are at. And for me, that's why I focus so much on fundamentals. That's why I focus so much on Arbin's, Koprosh, Bordogny, Blazovic. These are my main 4, and really my only 4 that I use, and Tyrrell, so 5. But this is why I focus on really working extensively through these books, making sure that no stones are left unturned in those method books. I go slowly through things. I'm methodical. I'm precise about fundamentals, and it's also why my regular warm-ups are based on slow scales, going for a great sound, going for ease of everything I do, relaxation, and intonation. It has to sound as good as a cellist would sound, as good as a great cellist. It has to be so in tune, so resonant. The registers all have to line up. Because when I get nervous, I need to be able to rely on my fundamental skills to carry me through. If anybody tells you they don't get nervous in an audition, don't believe them. And if anybody tells you they played a perfect audition, don't believe them. It doesn't happen. Everybody gets a little bit nervous no matter how many times you've done it. It's just maybe the level goes down a little bit and you start getting used to it. But everybody gets a little nervous, and no one plays a perfect audition whatsoever. I never have, and I know I never will. So then if it's all based on fundamentals, says this guy over here, how do I work on this? Well, Obviously, we need to work on the rep itself. We need to work on the audition list. But I do so in tandem with fundamental exercises as well. I find things in these major books of ours, in the technique, in the fundamentals, in the etude literature, that can help address typical things that I'll find in excerpts. So, there's a Blazevich thing out there that sounds just like the Ride of the Valkyries. It's the same rhythm. Yeah. Put those together. It helps. So I focus on things in tandem, but I'm also focused on what I am not quite so good at yet, what I'm really good at, and what I know is always going to be my Achilles heel. So what do I mean by that? I mean that I look at a list and I identify very quickly, what are my strengths? What am I good at? And I don't focus a lot of time on those things until about a month before, because I know, hey, I can play that. I can play it really well. I still need time to make sure it's all polished and pristine and as good as possible. But I don't need so much time on these things that I trust. Now, the other things, the things I'm not so good at yet, these are things that might be more technically challenging, things like William Tell, that are going to need a lot of work to make precise. We can all play chromatic scales, but if you have something that's very technically challenging, this is something to really put at the beginning of your prep, which for me is about 2 months out of an audition. Again, everything comes back to fundamentals. These are things I'm going to be addressing every day in my playing, but specific to the audition repertoire, the hardest stuff goes very early, and it goes at a snail's pace. If you've seen Zootopia, it goes at the pace of the DMV sloths. Not joking. We need to slow it down so much that the brain can latch onto every note, into every movement, that we can see so clearly that by the time we start moving it quicker, all these patterns become very easy for us. And the brain can now just kind of sit back, relax. It knows what it's doing, and it can speak the language rather than focusing on writing every letter out or every syllable, sounding every syllable out. It now can speak in sentences, but only because we took the time to focus on every single letter, every single word, and every single sentence or phrase within the sentence. The stuff that is my Achilles heel, yeah, that's stuff I'm always working on. I won't share that publicly, but at least not on the video. But knowing what I feel that I'm really not good at, that's always a really important thing to work on. And above all that, I think it's really important to know that an audition day is probably not going to be your 100%. On an audition day, you're probably not going to play your best. Again, it's not a completely normal day. You want it to be a normal day, and we want it to be a normal day. It essentially is just another day in your life, right? But it is going to feel a little different. You don't really wake up in a hotel all the time. You don't really feel like you can't eat breakfast that day. You don't really get dry mouth very often. It's very rare you're showing up to a hall you've never played in just to play for 10 minutes and see if you moved on to play some more. It doesn't happen very much. So for me, what this comes to, knowing that I'm not going to be at my 100%, comes to me knowing that, all right, I'm going to have to set 85%, a solid B, as my benchmark. And that's what I'm after. That's what I'm after achieving in an audition. Not 100%, because if I'm after achieving that A+ or even extra credit, well, what happens if I get one little thing wrong? What happens if I kind of frack a note or something's a little out of tune? I've already lost. My 100% that I was going for, I hit 98 now. And I'm gonna beat myself up over that. That's not good. So by 85%, by aiming for 85%, that puts myself at a much higher success threshold. But what it also tells me is that if I'm only aiming for 85% of what I can do, now when I practice, that 85% that I'm aiming to be at in an audition, that 85% needs to be better than anybody else's 110%. In order for me to feel like I have a shot at winning the job, my work ethic needs to be at a level that pushes myself hard in the practice room, so that when I come to an audition or even a recital, when I get to a public performance, I can I can dial that throttle back and rely on my fundamentals being at a high level and rely on that 85% threshold, knowing I'm going to miss something. That's what happens in live music. We're not all perfect here. Recordings might have you think otherwise, but we are not perfect. None of us are perfect. We all miss something time to time. But having that 85% be better than anybody else's 110%, for me, that was the golden answer. And I got that from my friend Doug Rosenthal in the Pittsburgh Symphony. It was very helpful there, and that changed my life in auditions to being able to do a lot better. I know this is a lot of information in this video. I hope this all made sense for you all. Again, I know there's always auditions out there, but I just wanted to hop on here since I get asked this question so much. And I've got some experience with auditions, to at least be able to hopefully share some of my thoughts with you all, in the hopes that it helps some of you. Auditions are not easy things. They can be scary. But the more we can make them a normal day, the more we can understand what they're actually showing. And that they're actually showing it's just your fundamentals. Of course, we need to play with character. We need to play with the right style for everything. Of course, there's more detail to that. But at the end of the day, it really comes to how well prepared you are fundamentally, and you being able to rely on that in order to have the best audition you can, in order to be as confident as you can walking into a high-pressure situation. So, again, I hope this is helpful. As I'm recording this now and it's going kind of long, I realized that maybe I should have done it the landscape way. Might have been better as a YouTube video that way. Anyway, if you have any questions, you can email me. My email is on my Instagram account. Yeah, I hope that helps. Take care and good luck in your next audition.